I watched Channel 4 News last night, and I got to 40 minutes in, and I thought, are they going to mention the fact that Keir Starmer is under the cosh here? That, you know, Lord Ali and the revelations coming out of the penthouse, and the £18 million penthouse are getting worse. That, you know, the Labour Party's, you know, sort of folding in on itself.
It's just a rich guy, and I actually make no criticism of him. It seems he's played his hand quite well, spraying money and favours around the very top of this government. And people hate that stuff. And they also recall that the last bunch that were the recipients of this kind of largesse were the Tories, and they were the ones partying in Downing Street and so on. And guess who was on their high horse criticising it all? It was this lot.
You went from being, you know, one of the most beloved TV comedians. How did it feel as it's the sort of cancel culture rose and the news stopped? How were you perceived differently by the media, I suppose?
Well, it didn't bother me that much because I thought it was their problem. I thought it was them that were, they're wrong, they're mad. Okay, you know.
The political establishment often acts as though the rules don't bind them, as if accountability is meant for everyone else. This week, that illusion started to fracture. Keir Starmer now sits at the center of an expanding controversy after comedian Jim Davidson made explosive assertions during a private comedy performance in Westminster. Davidson alleged the existence of footage involving Starmer that he claimed caused serious personal distress within the Prime Minister's household. He suggested the claims were significant enough to prompt legal advice and a sudden retreat from public visibility. These allegations remain unproven, and Downing Street has rejected them outright as nonsense. But behind closed doors, discomfort is growing. Reports suggest Starmer's team moved rapidly, issuing cease and desist notices, threatening legal action, and pushing platforms to remove references to the story. Whatever the reality, the reaction itself is revealing. Power is being deployed forcefully, not to explain, but to contain. And in doing so, it raises an uneasy question about transparency, accountability, and who the rules truly apply to.
And that is, for me, possibly the worst and most damaging aspect of this story. That this is a guy who is leading our country, who is the representative of the United Kingdom at the United Nations. You know, he's not the head of state, but he's, you know, the leader of the nation. He has lived a complete lie. I mean, I've said earlier today in the show, I don't know what he gets up to with Lord Ali. I don't know what he does for hours and hours on end at this flat that they seem to be happy to share.
Davidson isn't retreating. After stating he had viewed the footage, he said it left him physically shaken. It's a powerful allegation, one that cuts deeper because of the figure it targets. Starmer, once applauded as a symbol of political integrity, is now confronting claims that place him uncomfortably close to the very culture he once vowed to dismantle. Inside Labour, unease is reportedly spreading rapidly. Party insiders are said to be quietly discussing leadership challenges, seeing Starmer not merely as a liability, but as a growing risk to the party's future. And just as many believed Jim Davidson's involvement in the controversy had ended, he escalated again, making further accusations about the forces he claims are sustaining Starmer. Downing Street continues to dismiss all claims outright, but the noise isn't subsiding.
In the same penthouse. I mean, this is unbelievable to me.
So I think there is something bigger going on here, and it's annoying because I don't know what it is. And I know that the lobby of political journalists at Westminster feel the same. All of us instinctively feel that there is some big fact here that we're not being made.
I mean, I'm going to ask the question because nobody else will. Is it some kind of sex thing, do you think?
So there have long been rumours about Keir Starmer's private life, and they certainly aren't to do with any kind of doubts over his sexuality, if I can put it delicately. Okay. They are to do with his past. It's really quite easily understood. It's just a rich guy, and I actually make no criticism of him. It seems he's played his hand quite well, spraying money and favours around the very top of this government. And people hate that stuff. And they also recall that the last bunch that were the recipients of this kind of largesse were the Tories, and they were the ones partying in Downing Street and so on. And guess who was on their high horse criticising it all? It was this lot.
Public frustration with Keir Starmer and his party is mounting as allegations continue to circulate regarding his ties to Lord Ali and events linked to a luxury penthouse frequently mentioned online. What's stoking even more anger is the sense that major broadcasters, including Channel 4 and the BBC, are largely ignoring the story, raising fresh doubts about media impartiality. To many it seems less like caution and more like protection. The reported connection between Starmer and Lord Ali particularly claims that the penthouse hosted political gatherings has drawn intense scrutiny. And when senior Labour figures such as West Streeting are reportedly associated with events there, it deepens the public feeling that something isn't adding up, whether confirmed or not. The silence itself is now part of the controversy. The same penthouse, seriously, this is incredible to me.
Should Keir Starmer and his wife pay for their own clothes? Victoria Starmer has been wearing high-end clothes given to her by a Labour donor. Lord Ali recently gifted her more than £5,000 worth of clothing. He's also given the PM items worth almost £19,000. Starmer did declare his gifts to Parliament, but not his wife's. The gifts have now been registered after the Prime Minister sought advice. And the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner has rejected calls from the Tories for an investigation.
Public frustration has only escalated following reports of a donation tied to climate policy that critics say wasn't clearly disclosed at the time. Tensions intensified further with claims that Starmer recorded public messages from Lord Ali's luxury penthouse while giving the impression he was speaking from his own home. For many voters, this has sparked broader concerns about transparency, not just regarding Starmer but across Labour's senior leadership. Perhaps most damaging is the growing sense of distrust. While some personal allegations remain unverified, there's a persistent feeling that the full picture has yet to emerge. Commentators like Isabel Oakeshott have suggested that elements of Starmer's past are being downplayed or ignored, fueling suspicion that significant information is being withheld from the public. Once again, Starmer's leadership faces scrutiny, this time over his connection to Lord Ali and the use of a luxury penthouse reportedly valued at around $18 million. The controversy has triggered public anger, with many feeling there's more to the story than presented. For an increasing number of people, the explanations simply don't add up. The issue first arose when Starmer defended staying in Lord Ali's high-end flat, claiming it allowed his son to focus on studying for GCSEs, but critics quickly highlighted a timeline issue. Reports suggest the family remained in the penthouse for roughly 7 weeks, far beyond the exam period. That naturally raises questions about why such an extravagant property was required for so long, and scrutiny doesn't end there. Observers are now asking how many family members stayed in the penthouse and whether such arrangements were genuinely necessary, especially when quieter, less lavish options were presumably available. Starmer has stated the accommodation, reportedly costing £450 per night, was properly declared. Yet critics argue that figure doesn't reflect the true value of the property, leaving many voters unsatisfied. For some, this episode clashes directly with Labour's frequent criticisms of privilege and special treatment, particularly on issues like private education and inequality. That perceived double standard is difficult to ignore, and as the story unfolds, the discomfort only intensifies. With every new detail, the sense that something is being withheld grows stronger, whether it was a personal favor or something else entirely. What began as controversy over a luxury stay has evolved into a wider debate about trust, transparency, and integrity. At its core, this is no longer simply about a penthouse. It's about whether those claiming to champion fairness are actually living by the values they advocate. For many voters, doubt is rising. And so is the question of what else might not be fully disclosed.
Near anything. Don't take anything for free, just in case.
It's also, this is like is this the only billionaire that supports Labour? I think it's a bit sad that he seems to, this Ali.
Yeah, he's buying them clothes, he's like, buying them food.
They've got no one else to go, because they said, oh, what's his first name? Is his first name Ali? Yeah, no, his surname's Ali. Lord Ali.
Lord is his first name.
I was looking for it was Lord, yes. Lord Ali.
Yes.
They were like, well, is it Lord Ali's flat? He's like, yeah, of course it is.
So he's the only donor at this point.
It seems so.
They would all starve without him.
Lord Ali must be sat there and his phone rings. He's like, Starmer again.
He's just going to give him the bank details and let him get on.
So Keir Starmer and his wife Victoria are under increasing public scrutiny over reports of high-value gifts and concerns about privilege, secrecy, and inconsistencies. Media coverage notes that Labour donor Lord Wahid Ali allegedly provided designer clothing to Victoria Starmer worth thousands, while Keir Starmer himself reportedly received luxury items of similar value. Official records show these gifts were declared to Parliament, yet the optics have sparked questions. Starmer has defended the gifts, saying they were intended to ensure he and his wife appeared presentable in public. Yet for a politician on a taxpayer-funded salary, and with a spouse reportedly earning independently, critics question the necessity of accepting luxury donations. The optics are awkward for someone who positions himself as a champion of ordinary working people. Scrutiny also extends to reports that the Starmer family stayed at a high-value property linked to Lord Ali for longer than initially explained. Questions remain over who else may have been present and who covered the costs. Critics argue that efforts to obtain clarity have met with limited response or deflection. Additionally, some sources indicate that journalists covering the story have faced pressure and legal challenges, raising further concerns about transparency. Starmer's team maintains that any private material tied to these events is not of public interest. Still, observers warn the controversy highlights broader issues of accountability, perception, and the gap between political elites and the public they serve, whether the reports are fully verified or not. The debate underscores a growing tension between public expectation and political image. For many, it raises fundamental questions. How much should transparency matter? And when does perceived privilege undermine trust in leadership? A few journalists reportedly had credentials revoked, while others claim they were warned off the story by individuals claiming to represent senior government figures. Taken together, it paints a troubling picture, not just of luxury wardrobes and high society connections, but of active efforts to limit public scrutiny in Westminster and beyond. Chatter has intensified over leaked video clips said to show activity inside a high-value property. During that period, a prominent political family reportedly stayed there. Sources suggest the footage includes interior views, movement through entrances and hallways, and late-night comings and goings that some observers say could raise ethical or legal questions. Starmer's team has dismissed these claims as gossip, but unease is mounting within Labour. One unnamed MP reportedly described the situation as a slow-burning credibility crisis that could erupt at any moment. Combined with earlier reports of gifts, undisclosed perks, and extended stays in luxury accommodation, public sentiment appears to be shifting. Once praised as disciplined and straightforward, Starmer now risks being seen as entangled in the very backroom dealings the party long vowed to oppose. Early reports highlighted designer clothing gifts, some declared to Parliament only after media scrutiny, raising questions about transparency and necessity. Public commentary has focused on why such high-value items would be accepted, particularly from a single prominent donor, and what expectations or influence might accompany them. Attention intensified when it emerged that the family reportedly stayed in a luxury penthouse for several weeks during a period initially explained as needed for exam preparation. Critics noted the stay extended well beyond the exams, prompting observers to question whether such an extravagant setting was truly required. Now, public focus is turning to broader implications. Are these acts of generosity creating expectations or influence? As the story unfolds and MPs quietly voice unease, the British public is left asking the question no leader wants to face. Who is Starmer really working for, and why do these reports keep surfacing? Let's focus on the key issues. Here we have Keir Starmer, leader of a party claiming to champion the working class, reportedly accepting high-value clothing, accommodation, and other perks from a prominent donor. And not just any donor, one of the wealthiest individuals in the country. The online reaction was immediate. Social media is filled with jokes, memes, and sharp commentary. Whether these gifts are genuine tokens of generosity or something more calculated, the public can't help but raise eyebrows, and who could blame them? When a politician receives lavish items from a single source, it risks appearing less like gratitude and more like funding. For someone claiming to fight for ordinary people, the optics feel off. Trust becomes the bigger issue. Each new detail complicates the situation, and explanations so far have done little to reassure anyone. Instead, the story keeps growing, and public confidence seems to shrink. People are frustrated, weary of double standards, tired of leaders claiming moral authority while appearing to operate by different rules. Whether Starmer can withstand this storm remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. Polished talking points and reassurances aren't sufficient anymore. Public scrutiny isn't slowing, and the debate over trust, transparency, and accountability continues to intensify. The questions aren't disappearing, and the story isn't finished.